TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations. Shalom and good evening. This is TV7 Israel News broadcast to you from Jerusalem. And in today's top stories, progress is being made in ongoing foreign-mediated negotiations between Israel and the jihadist organizations in Gaza, raising prospects of a long-lasting truce arrangement that will effectively end hostilities on Israel's southern front for an extended, even though undefined, period of time. The crisis sweeping Lebanon has taken a violent turn this week when Hezbollah gangs attacked several Christian neighborhoods, threatening the country with dangerous prospects of civil war. The German federal government is reportedly expected to outlaw Lebanon's Iranian-backed Hezbollah from operating in the country as early as next week. The Islamist Hamas organization canceled the weekly border raids today for the third consecutive week. The announcement came in spite of the significance of today, the 29th of November, which marks the 72nd anniversary of the UN General Assembly's adoption of Resolution 181, which recommended a partition plan of then-mandatory Palestine at the end of the British mandate. It is important to know that while in 1947 the plan was accepted by the Jewish Agency for Palestine, Arab leaders and governments vehemently rejected any partition of the land. And after the UN General Assembly adopted the resolution, which consequently led to the establishment of the Jewish state, the commonly known Arab-Israeli war broke out, which resulted in a chastening defeat of the local Arab militias alongside the armies of Egypt, Transjordan, Iraq, and Syria. According to the Hamas leadership in Gaza, the decision to cancel the weekly border protests once again was made after an evaluation of the security situation, which they defined as sensitive. In a written conversation with TV7, one Hamas official insisted that they do not want to give Israel an opportunity to harm the Palestinian protesters. Nevertheless, several sources confirmed to TV7 that the official Hamas position is completely detached from reality behind closed doors. An Egyptian source explained that progress was made in ongoing negotiations between Israel and the jihadist organizations in the Gaza Strip. Those covert negotiations aim to establish a long-lasting truce arrangement that will effectively end hostilities on Israel's southern front for an extended, even though undefined, period of time. It is important to know that the timing of the announcement by Hamas was made right after Israel informed the Palestinians that it will extend the permitted fishing zone for small fishing boats off the coast of the Gaza enclave to a distance of 50 nautical miles. The Israeli measure indicates a shift in policy, since up until the Israeli concession, only trawlers have been permitted to reach such a distance for fear that smaller fishing boats could be used to smuggle arms into the Islamist-infested territory. It is also important to mention that Qatar, Egypt, and the UN envoy to the Middle East, Nikolai Mladenov, are actively involved as mediators between Israel and Hamas. Turning now to Israel's northern neighbor, where the crisis sweeping Lebanon has taken a violent turn this week, with 3 separate nights of skirmishes, prompting warnings of bloodshed and revived memories of the country's sectarian civil war between 1975 to 1990. The Lebanese armed forces have consequently deployed additional troops in areas of sectarian friction after gangs of Shiite Muslims, referred to by other media outlets as supporters of Hezbollah and its Shiite ally Amal, entered several Christian neighborhoods in the cities of Beirut and Tyre, where the Islamist mob assaulted peaceful Christian demonstrators and set their protest camps ablaze. A video published on social media purported to show the attack, which also included heavy gunfire in the background. Nevertheless, in response to the incident, Hezbollah deputy leader Sheikh Naim Qassem insisted that there are no signs of civil war in Lebanon, and that the violence was an American conspiracy to impose Western interests amid political and social unrest.
لا أرى مؤشرات لحرب أهلية في لبنان، وحزب الله مصمم أن لا يقع في الفتنة التي تريدها أمريكا، ولكن لدينا معلومات عن محاولات أمريكا من أجل إيجاد بعض القلاقل الأمنية. سنحاول من جهتنا أن نعمل لنتفادى ما أمكننا كحزب، وعلى القوى الأمنية والسياسية أن تقوم بما يعنيها كي لا تقع في الفخ، لكن لا يوجد أي مؤشر في لبنان لحرب أهلية.
The protests that have swept Lebanon since the 17th of October are fueled by deep, widespread resentment for a ruling class seen as marred in corruption and having driven the country's economy into dire crisis. Nevertheless, residents of the Lebanese capital Beirut are hopeful that the situation will soon alleviate.
منوعين اللي كانوا امبارح، بس انه يا اخي الوضع ما بيسمح انه يصير مشاكل لو صغيره هالقد لانه بتتطور ومنطقه حساسه.
انت عندك
خوف من اي ناحيه؟
من انه تصير الحرب.
عندي خوف تصير الحرب، ما بعتقد بيصير حرب، لانه الشعب بيعرف انه الحرب بتأذيه له قبل ما تأذي حدا تاني، بالنهايه هذا اللي فوق اكثر شيء بيسبله يعني، ومعهم مصرياتهم او بضلوا معهم مصرياتهم، في مين يحميهم يعني، عرفت كيف؟ من الاخر نحن اللي نأذى، نحن الشعب المعطل، نحن اللي نأذى يعني.
المحاضر الحرب الأهلية ما بيعرف شو يعني حرب. المحاضر الحرب ما بيعرف شو يعني حرب. حرب أهلية بستبعده أنا، ما في شيء، مستحيل ترجع تتكرر. الجيش لا ينشق، مستحيل ما بينشق الجيش. في هيك فورة دم بتصير وخلصت انتهت، بس نحن بنقول الله يهدي البال.
Turning now to Berlin, where the German government is expected to outlaw Lebanon's Iranian-backed Hezbollah from operating in the country. The German daily Der Spiegel reported, citing sources in the German Foreign, Interior and Justice ministries, that the decision could happen next week when cabinet ministers are scheduled to meet. If the decision is indeed implemented, authorities will be forced to treat Hezbollah as equal to the Islamic State and will bar all activities and associations with the Iranian-backed group, including waving of the organization's flag. Turning now to Paris, where French President Emmanuel Macron underscored that Turkey could not expect solidarity from its NATO allies when it launches a military offensive against the Kurdish YPG militia in northeastern Syria, done as a fait accompli. Speaking alongside NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg, the French president rebuked Ankara for its behavior, all while disregarding its Western allies.
Je respecte les intérêts de sécurité de notre allié turc, qui a eu à subir de très nombreuses attaques terroristes sur son sol. Mais on ne peut pas dire d'un côté que nous sommes alliés, exiger à cet égard de la solidarité, et de l'autre, mettre ses alliés devant le fait accompli d'une intervention militaire qui met en péril l'action de la coalition contre Daesh, dont l'OTAN, je le rappelle, est membre.
Macron further stressed that Turkey's actions in northeastern Syria have brought up real questions about its commitments and true intentions.
Proclamer son attachement à la sécurité collective ne suffit pas. Il se démontre. Une véritable alliance, ce sont des actes, ce sont des décisions, pas des mots. Je souhaite donc que nous ayons une véritable discussion entre alliés sur notre engagement concret dans la lutte contre le terrorisme au Sahel comme au Levant, où l'intervention militaire menée il y a quelques semaines par la Turquie dans le nord-est syrien a posé de vraies questions qu'il faut là aussi regarder en face.
In response, Turkish Foreign Minister Mevlut Çavuşoğlu dismissed President Macron's criticism. Speaking from Ankara, the Turkish top diplomat accused the French leader of serving as a sponsor of terrorist organizations.
O terör örgütünün hamisi zaten Elize'de sürekli ağlıyor. Benim müttefiğim terör örgütü diyorsa ona da vereceğimiz cevap var ama başka söyleyecek bir şey yok. Macron bu tür yalpalamalarla Avrupa'nın lideri olamaz. Şu anda Avrupa'da bir boşluk var. Lideri ben olayım diye çabalıyor ama bu suni bir davranıştır. Liderlik doğallıkla olur. Yani liderlik vasfıyla olur ve doğal hareketlerle ve politikalarla olur.
It is important to know that the Turkish foreign minister referred to a meeting last month between President Macron and Gianni Ahmed, the spokeswoman for the US-backed Syrian Democratic Forces, of which the YPG is a significant part of, to express France's solidarity with them in their fight against the Islamic State in Syria. The meeting infuriated Ankara as it considers the YPG as a terrorist organization. Thank you for watching us. Keep praying for the peace of Jerusalem and the peace and salvation of Israel. I'm Jonathan Hassan. Have an Erev Tov and Shabbat Shalom, and we will see you again on Monday at the same time.